Alright, I'm going to show you a few examples of factoring trinomials when a is not equal to 1. So just a couple things to remember. That factoring is the reverse of multiplication. Also, always factor out the greatest common factor first. Make sure that your leading coefficient is positive. That is when we're looking at ax squared plus bx plus c, that means the a out front always needs to be positive. And then either use your method of choice, either use your box or your factor list. This video I'm going to focus on doing the factor list. First example, 2x squared minus 11x minus 6. Alright, so there is no greatest common factor. So the next step would be then to make factors of a and factors of c. So factors of 2 include 1 and 2, 2 and 1. Factors of negative 6 is negative 1 and 6, negative 2 and 3, negative 3 and 2, negative 6 and 1. And then we want to find a pair of factors so that our goal is to find ones that add up to negative 11. And then remember, factoring is the reverse of multiplication. And so if you think about when we multiply, we want the outside numbers to multiply together plus the inside numbers to multiply together to give us that b term. And so I'm going to go through here and I find that it's actually going to be the first set and the second set here that work. So I'm going to pull those off to the side and just show you. So when I multiply the outside numbers together, 1 times 1 is 1. When I multiply the inside numbers together, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. So those are the factors that work for me. So then my answers are going to be out in the parentheses like this. The 2x squared was the factors that had the x involved. So these 1x and 2x both get an x. So we know that it's going to be 1x and 2x. And then to decide where the negative 6 and the 1 go. Well, the 1 was in the first spot and the 6 is in the first spot. So the 6 goes in the first set of parentheses. The 1 goes in the second spot, it goes in the second set of parentheses. And then you can always check your work by making sure that the outsides still multiply to give you 1 and the insides multiply to give you negative 12. And those have to add up to negative 11. So since the outsides and insides still add up to negative 11, that is our correct answer. It's a little messy, but I think you get the gist of it. Alright, let's do another example. So 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Again, there's not a greatest common factor. So then let's find factors of 2. So 1 and 2, 2 and 1. And factors of 6. Positive 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3, 3 and 2, and 6 and 1. And then we want to multiply the outside numbers plus the product of the inside numbers. We want those to equal 7. So the pair that works is right here. It's kind of messy to see, but I'm going to pull those off to the side over here. So it was 2 and 1 and 3 and 2. Because 2 times 2 is 4 and 3 times 1 is 3. And 3 plus 4 gives me that 7x that I want. So then when I write that as my answers, these were my x terms. So those ones each get an x. That came from this column right here. These are all my possible x's. So that's 2x and 1x. Now again, the 3 is going to go in the first spot and the 2 is going to go in the second spot since it's the first number and the second number. Another way to think about it is my outside numbers have to multiply together to give me 4. So the 2x, and that means that the 2 has to go here because those outsides have to give me 4. And then my inside numbers have to give me 3. I already have a 1x, so that this means that this has to be plus 3 because these had to give me 3 so that they add up to 7. So then my final answer is 2x plus 3 and 1x plus 2. Alright, let's factor this completely. 2x squared minus 3x minus 20. Again, we do not have a greatest common factor, so then the first step, we can't take anything out. So next, find factors of negative 1 and, find factors of 2. So 1 and 2, 2 and 1. Then find factors of negative 20. So negative 1 and 20, negative 2 and 10, negative 4 and 5. And since these two factors are really close together, that's the end of our factor list. Then we just got to go backwards. Negative 5 and 4, negative 10 and 2, negative 20 and 1. Now I want to find the product of the outsides and the product of the insides added together have to equal negative 3. So it's going to be we want a 5 minus 8. So I'm just going to pull those off to the side again. So this was 2x squared minus 20. So the factors I chose were 1 and 2 and negative 4 and 5. The reason I chose those is because the outsides, 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 5 equals negative 3, and that's what I want. So then putting that into my answers, remember these were with the x's, so each one of these gets an x. So I have 1x and 2x. And then the outside numbers needed to multiply to give me 5. So these outside numbers here, the 2 on the outside, had to give me 5. So I already have my 1x, so that means that my 5 has to go here. Now the 2 inside numbers have to multiply together to give me that negative 8. I already have my 2x here, so that means I need to put my negative 4 here. And so my final answer is 1x minus 4 and 2x plus 5. Remember, you can always multiply it back through to check your work. I would recommend stopping this video, putting it on pause, and trying this one on your own. This one, we do have a greatest common factor, so we need to look through here and see what is 6, 15, and 9 all have in common. They all have a 3 in common. And then x cubed, x squared, and x all have an x in common. So we need to start by taking out a 3x, which means I'm dividing everything by 3x. Oops, that didn't quite work. I'm dividing everything by 3x. So here I'll be left with a 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. It's a little messy, but next, find factors of 2 and factors of negative 3, so negative 1 and 3 and negative 3 and 1. Now I want the products of the outsides plus the product of the inside to give me negative 5. And it's, oh, nope, not that one. It's going to be these pairs. So pulling those aside here just for emphasis, the outsides give me 1 and the inside give me negative 6, and that equals negative 5, and so that's what I want. Putting those in my parentheses, remember the combination 1 and 2, those are my x values, so I got 1x and 2x. And then deciding where to put my negative 3 and where to put the 1. Well, remember the outside had to multiply together to give me 1. So this outside has to multiply to 1, and so 1 times 1 is 1, so the 1 goes there. The inside gave me negative 6, so that means that the negative 3 goes there. And 1x minus 3 and 2x plus 1. would be the answer. Oh, and then don't forget, of course, that greatest common factor that we took out needs to be part of your answer as well. All right, one more example. This time, you'll have a greatest common factor, and remember, this a cannot be negative, and so you have to take out the greatest common factor, and you have to make that greatest common factor negative. So let's go ahead and pull out a negative, let's see, it would be negative 4. And so that would leave us with 3x squared. And then 56 divided by 4. And then remember, since 56 is negative, or 56 is positive, but we're dividing it by a negative, it's going to be negative 14x. And then here we're dividing by negative 4, so it's going to be negative 32 divided by negative 4 is going to be positive 8. And so when you divide by a negative, all your signs change. So be careful of that, but we need that front term to be positive before we can factor any further. Then find factors of 1 and 3, or factors of 3, 1 and 3, 3 and 1. Factors of 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 4 and 2, 8 and 1. Then we need the product of the outside and the product of the inside to give me negative 14. Alright, so since 8 is positive, but we need a negative 14, that means that all of these need to be negative. Since negative 1 and negative 8 will also give me positive 8, but we want it to add up to a negative number, which means you got to make all of those negative. Now find the pair outsides and insides that pair up to give me negative 14. So it's going to be those two. I'm just going to pull those off to the side over here. So 3 and, well, that's really hard to read. Okay. I'm going to erase this just so I have a little bit more room. Alright, so 3 and 1 and negative 4 and negative 2 and negative 4 are the pairs that I chose, because 3 times negative 4 is negative 12 and 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And so those are the pairs that work best for me to add up to negative 14. So then my answer becomes, don't forget to put the negative 4 out front, and then the 3 and the 1 were my x's, so I have 3x. Oh, that's really messy. I have 3x and 1x. And then the outside numbers had to give me negative 12. So it was 3 and negative 4 gave me negative 12. And then the inside numbers gave me negative 2. So it was 1 and negative 2. Or again, the 2 is in the negative 2 is in the first spot, it goes in the first box. The negative 4 is in the second spot, it goes in the second spot. So my answer is kind of messy down there, but it's negative 4 times 3x minus 2. Well, it's not getting any better. 1x minus 4. Alright, so I hope that was enough examples to help you guys out. Remember to always factor out the greatest common factor first. Always check your answers by multiplying it back through. Remember, you can use the box to multiply back through. If you want to use the box to factor, there's a video that uses the box that hopefully that's helpful. Alright, thanks guys.